So I think Manchester United should sign Harry Kane this summer, but there is a pretty big if that would come with it. Kane is 29, 30 in July, so he's now at the stage of his career where if he does want to win pretty much any domestic or European trophy, he is going to have to leave Tottenham. And this summer could be a good parting time for both club and player, as Kane would have just 1 year left on his contract, which does expire in 2024. So if Tottenham wanted to bring in any sort of substantial fee for him, and they can't convince him to extend his current contract, then they probably will have to look to sell him this summer. Now I will explain the big if that I talked about at the start of the video, but let's first analyse why Manchester United may want to sign Harry Kane from a statistical, tactical and logical perspective. But before I go any further, let me tell you why you should consider downloading the OneFootball app, because it's become my all-in-one place for keeping up to date with the latest football news, whilst also being able to follow Manchester United specifically, giving me access to all the latest news, videos and articles. It's also the best place to keep up to date with any live football, as during the World Cup they had a live ticker for any updates on the match, confirmation for the lineups as well as a rating for each player, and also all the team stats you need as well to get a better in-depth view of how the game played out rather than just the goals scored. So if you want to support the channel and think you'd also be interested in looking at the OneFootball app, I'll leave it linked in the description and comments below. So we'll start off with a statistical breakdown by looking at Kane's FBref report over the last 365 days, as it will allow us to compare Kane against every other centre forward in Europe's top 5 leagues. So straight away we can see that he ranks fairly highly for both his non-penalty goals and his non-penalty XG, ranking in the 70th percentile for his non-penalty XG and the 79th percentile for his non-penalty goals, and he does overperform his non-penalty XG by 0.07 per 90, which itself ranks in the 76th percentile, showing that Harry Kane is a very good finisher. But it's when we move on to his creative passing where we can see why he stands out as one of the best centre forwards in world football. He ranks in the 97th percentile for his long passes completed, and the 82nd percentile for his medium passes completed. He doesn't rank anywhere nearly as highly for his short passes completed, but this probably has something to do with Tottenham's more direct style. And so I do think if Harry Kane was put into a more possession orientated system, we would see these short passing numbers go up. And when we go further, we can see just how good Harry Kane is at progressing the ball forward via his passing. He ranks in the 98th percentile for his passes into the final third, the 92nd percentile for his passes into the penalty area, the 95th percentile for his overall progressive passes, as well as in the 92nd percentile for his XG assisted and the 88th percentile for his key passes. And so from these creative numbers we can see that Harry Kane is not just exceptional at progressing the ball into the final third, he's also very good at progressing the ball into the box, whilst also being able to create high quality goal scoring opportunities as well. This is further exemplified by the fact that he ranks in the 99th percentile for his through balls and the 94th percentile for his switches of play. As we look at his possession metrics, we can see that he has a high amount of touches in the defensive and middle thirds, showing that he does play quite a withdrawn role for Antonio Conte's Tottenham. Since Erling Haaland has come into the Premier League, I do think Harry Kane's goal scoring has gone under the radar. He scored 14 non-penalty goals and 2 penalties in 21 Premier League games, second only to Erling Haaland, who has 21 non-penalty goals and 4 penalties in just 19 Premier League games. However, Haaland is getting a non-penalty XG of 0.91 per 90 compared to Harry Kane's 0.53 per 90. Now whilst a large part of this is down to the fact that Erling Haaland is playing at Manchester City, and so he's obviously going to get a higher standard of chances than Harry Kane, the majority of it does come down to Erling Haaland's exceptional movement and his own ability to create chances for himself. Though I do think if you put Harry Kane into Ten Hag's Manchester United side, we do see his non-penalty XG per 90 increase dramatically. And I'll come on to that in a minute when I talk about how Kane will fit into this Manchester United side from a tactical perspective. Now despite being 30 by the time this transfer would happen in the summer, I do actually think we could see Harry Kane get even better. Because this season he scored 16 Premier League goals in 21 games, which is already just one behind what he got last season, which was 17 goals in 37 games. The season before that, in 2020-2021, he hit 23 goals in 35 Premier League games. In 2019-2020, that was 18 goals in 29 Premier League games. And going back to Mauricio Pochettino's last season at Tottenham, that was 17 goals in 28 Premier League games. And so we can see that over the last few seasons in an underperforming Tottenham side, Harry Kane has consistently managed to season in, season out, get between 17 and 22 Premier League goals a season. And so moving him into a side that will probably be ready to challenge for the title next season in Ten Hag's Manchester United, gives me the confidence to predict that Kane would probably get between 22 and 25 Premier League goals, and we could maybe even see him touching 30 goals in a Premier League season, getting back to that goal scoring level that he had between 2015 and 2018. We're in the 2015-16 season, he scored 25 goals in 38 Premier League games. The season after in 16-17, that was 29 goals in 30 Premier League games. And in 17-18, he hit 30 Premier League goals in 37 Premier League games. However, back then, between 2014 and around 2018-2019, Kane definitely didn't have the same creative passing ability that he now possesses, with him tactically evolving from more of a deeper lying forward, who whilst he would drop off to link the play, would still retain quite an advanced position in the attack, to now certainly being more of a false nine who's more of a playmaker in certain phases of possession, but he still has that natural goal scoring ability and is still producing a high amount of goal scoring output. And so this is why I think Harry Kane in the right system, in the right role, could get even better from where he is now and legitimately start challenging Lewandowski and Karim Benzema for the #1 spot of being the most complete centre forward in the world. See, Anthony Martial is quite complete as a centre forward himself. He has the ability to drop off from the forward line and link play quickly with quick one-touch passes, before then having the ability to spin quickly and drive forward into the attack, where his movement into goal scoring and goal creating positions is usually very good, particularly during a quick transition in attack. However, despite Anthony Martial still being a very good striker, I just think Harry Kane is a level above him in most areas, and that's why I would consider Harry Kane to be world class. And even though I don't think he's quite as good, I definitely think he's on the same level as the likes of Erling Haaland, Karim Benzema and Robert Lewandowski. But I think Harry Kane offers a lot more creativity, certainly in the middle third, able to drop off from the forward line, receive the ball, spin, and whereas we often see Anthony Martial controlling the ball and often laying the ball off with a short pass to one of the on-running Fernandes or Eriksen, Harry Kane has a playmaking ability to thread a through pass on his own. And so by having Harry Kane in the forward line rather than Anthony Martial would essentially give United another playmaker in the attack, taking the creative burden off of the likes of Bruno Fernandes and Christian Eriksen, but also allowing United to go a lot more direct, say when United are being pressed aggressively and all their short passing options in their defensive third are being man-to-man pressed. Then we could see one of the centre-backs or the goalkeeper play a long direct pass into Harry Kane, who has the ability to not only bring the ball under control using his chest or feet, but from here he can either bring in the on-running Eriksen or Fernandes into play, or because he's drawn a centre-back out of the opposition's back line, there is the opportunity for one of the two wide players, say Antony on the right and Rashford on the left, to now make diagonal runs into the space created by Kane's deeper movement. And we can also see Fernandes and Eriksen making these types of runs beyond Kane from more central positions as well. And so we can really see the tactical benefits of having more of a playmaking striker who can be a lot more withdrawn, drop off from the forward line, and ultimately gives the forward line but also the system as a whole a lot more positional fluidity. However, usually you would think by bringing in a centre forward who's more of a playmaker, more of a chance creator like Harry Kane is compared to Anthony Martial, you would most of the time have to sacrifice goal scoring ability, but because it's Harry Kane, you're actually improving on your finishing. As when compared to Anthony Martial, I think everyone would agree that Harry Kane is a better goal scorer. I think he's got better movement in the box, and we've seen this recently with him picking up a lot more headed goals, moving around the back post, getting free in the box and taking those chances. Whereas I do often feel like Anthony Martial doesn't quite have that poacher-like instinct. And so whilst I do think Anthony Martial's ability to link play outside of the box works incredibly well, with United's quick transition in attack and with the likes of Rashford and Bruno Fernandes around him, I think in the big games and in the big moments when United do need a goal, they do need a striker like Harry Kane, who is so clinical from shooting and heading opportunities, that his goals alone could be the difference between Manchester United winning the title and finishing second or third. And so I think Harry Kane would dramatically improve Ten Hag's attack. However, it should be said that despite Harry Kane just having 1 year left on his contract come the summer, I still wouldn't expect Tottenham to let him go on the cheap. I think Daniel Levy and Tottenham will hold out for a fee in the region of £75 to £85 million, which some may claim is a massive overpayment, with Harry Kane turning 30 in the summer and being available on a free if United just wait another season. From Harry Kane's perspective as well, I think a transfer to Manchester United makes perfect sense. With him now turning 30, he needs to be moving somewhere where he's going to be challenging for titles almost immediately. And despite likely not ending up in a title race this season, I do think Ten Hag's United, alongside Arteta's Arsenal and Guardiola's Manchester City, are at the moment the three best sides to mount a challenge for the Premier League next season. United also look like a favourite to get Champions League football for next season. Ten Hag's system and style of play perfectly suits what Harry Kane needs, pace and can provide as a centre forward, so from a tactical point of view I think it's a perfect fit as well. And you also have to factor in that he would be joining the biggest club in England and what I would say is the second biggest club in world football. United under Ten Hag are also on the incline, which is definitely something that Kane has to look out for in his next transfer, as whichever club he goes to, he's going to be there for the next 3, 4, maybe even 5 seasons. And so that's why if I was him, I'd avoid joining someone like Liverpool, who seem to be at the end of an era and need a complete rebuild, which could take 2 or 3 seasons before they get back to their peak. Chelsea at the moment, despite the influx of players, do have a tremendous degree of uncertainty hanging over their heads, and with Kane's Tottenham legend status likely taking a massive hit if he was to make the move, I just don't think a Kane transfer to Stamford Bridge would make sense for either party. City already have Erling Haaland, despite Kane probably being a better fit for Guardiola's side, and despite him being a boyhood Arsenal fan, I just don't think Kane is going to make a move to the Emirates. Even though if he was to run his contract down at Tottenham and make a move on a free transfer to Arsenal in 2024, doing exactly what Sol Campbell did 24 years earlier, and if he was then to go on to win the title with Arsenal, it would probably be one of the most dramatic moves in all of Premier League history. But even then, a Harry Kane move to Manchester United, in my opinion, just makes a lot more sense for both the player and the club. And even though Real Madrid or Bayern Munich could also be interested, I think to me Kane has to stay in the Premier League and hunt down Alan Shearer's record. And Real Madrid's always one that can go either way. I don't necessarily think they would even be interested in signing Kane, particularly with Erling Haaland's release clause at Manchester City being active in 2024, so Kane to Manchester United to me just makes the most sense. And this to me seems like a typical Manchester United Sir Alex Ferguson era signing, and we saw an almost identical situation to the one we now see with Kane and United. In the summer of 2012, when United had lost the Premier League to Manchester City, who of course won their first title in the last day of the season with that Aguero goal, and that season United and City were neck and neck, and so going into the 2012 summer transfer window, Sir Alex Ferguson knew that in order to get the edge over City they would have to improve their forward line. And with Wayne Rooney better being deployed as a second striker behind a main centre forward, Danny Welbeck not being at the level that United needed, Carlos Tevez not being replaced after he left United in 2009, and Dimitar Berbatov on his way out of Old Trafford by the summer of 2012, it was clear that United needed a world-class goalscorer. And luckily for Ferguson and Manchester United, not only was Robin van Persie coming into his peak, being 29 by the start of the next season, but he also had just 1 year left on his Arsenal contract, which expired in the summer of 2013, and so Ferguson and United were able to bring Robin van Persie to the club for a fee that represented fantastic value of just £24 million. In 2010-2011, Van Persie had scored 18 goals in just 25 Premier League games for Arsenal, and 30 goals and 13 assists in 38 Premier League games the season before in 2011-2012. And so by prizing Van Persie away from Arsenal, not only were United directly weakening one of their rivals, but they'd also added a world-class centre forward who was proven in the Premier League and was a player capable of hitting 25 goals plus in a single season. And the move paid off with Robin van Persie once again being the league's top scorer with 26 goals, inspiring United in Fergie's last season to cruise to a comfortable Premier League title. And this isn't the only example of big sides having success when signing a striker in their peak, close to or at that 30 years old age mark. And another fantastic example was Gabriel Batistuta's move to Roma from Fiorentina in 2000 for €36 million, which at the time was a world record fee paid for a player over 30. And like Van Persie's move to Manchester United, it proved to be successful, with Gabriel Batistuta scoring 20 league goals for Fabio Capella's Roma side, being the catalyst for Roma winning their first Scudetto title in 14 years, and their last Serie A title till this day. So I think like Batistuta and Robin van Persie before, Harry Kane's big money transfer to Manchester United, which is being talked about this summer, is a move that I think works for both player and club, as well as manager and the whole tactical system at Manchester United as a whole. So let me know if you want Manchester United to sign Harry Kane. I have got a lot of other episodes coming up in this transfer series, so make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the bell so you do get notified when my videos come out. And you can check out some of the previous episodes and other videos which I will leave linked in the description.